Welcome to Focus Mastery, an ADHD video podcast for beautiful brains with bicycle brakes. If you're new here, my name's Chris Porter, and I'm an ADHD coach. And I interview neurodivergent people like you and me, as well as other coaches, therapists, and professionals working to unlock the full potential of our mental capacity. In this episode, I interview Ryan Mayer. He's an inspiring person to talk to, as you'll soon see. It was also pretty evident that we both have ADHD as we chat about some of the strategies that can help beautiful brains like ours. From accepting how we think to externalizing information instead of trying to hold everything in our working memory, we hit on a few of my favorite approaches to a full life with ADHD. Ryan got to share two really interesting programs he's launched recently. Both provide an alternative to hiring an ADHD coach for one-on-one help. I'm curious to hear what you think of them. You shared it briefly, but the discount code for how to find work that works for you is Porter30. What's interesting about that course is that you don't need a login. It's perfect for those of us with less than perfect memory. He gave me access to that program, and I'll be sharing that video with you once it's ready. So excited to have you listen to this and hope you enjoy. Cheers. I have Coach Ryan, who has an awesome YouTube channel. It's at Ryan Mayer Coaching. He's got some great videos. I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit. First of all, Ryan, welcome. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Chris, thank you so much. It's so great to be here. And because we are the way that we are, I just want to let you know up front, my last name's pronounced Mayer.
Okay.
Of May. I can't tell you how many times people have called asking me about Oscar Mayer hot dogs. But it's totally fine, and I'm not mad about it. I just want to let you know so that you could know going forward.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Chris and I were talking a little bit right before we hit record, and he was telling me that in Arizona, it's 116 degrees. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to go enjoy the outside here in tropical Cleveland, Ohio.
Rub it in, huh?
Yeah, well, just that I found myself with my ADHD, I kept saying, I'm going to go outside. But then the steps that it would take, which was go get extension cord and get Mac adapter, like a Mac plug. I couldn't do that for like 3 hours. But now, because there's a consequence of what I wanted to do, here we are. So thank you.
Awesome. I love it. The lighting's great. The great background.
And I know what the viewers might be wondering. And yes, that is a dual slide deluxe.
You ever have races going down those?
Yeah, my kids, my wife and I have 3 kids that are under the age of 6. So that Mayer Park, as we call it, gets a lot of traffic.
I reached out to you because I saw some of the videos that you're putting out there about ADHD, and that, of course, you're a certified coach that's helping other people, like me, that have our neurodivergent brains. Yeah. And just compelled to reach out to chat with you and learn a little bit more about your coaching, like what your approach is, how you help people. Like the biggest question I have off the top of my head is like, does coaching really work? I think I know the answer to that, but I'd love to hear what you have to say. Like, does coaching work for people that have ADHD?
And I could see why people would have their doubts just because of the fact of like, how am I going to keep my attention on anything, let alone something I don't want to do? But the way that I phrase it to people when they'll ask that typical question at a cocktail party, so what do? I'll say, I help people to keep the promises they make to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because how often as ADHDers do we go above and beyond for everyone else except ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
And that's me included too. That we know what we have to do. We know how to do it. We know why it's important, but for some reason that last part about actually doing it doesn't happen for so many of us. So that's where coaching comes in, is that I like to say I just get to be the accountability partner for my clients, where I'm not there to tell them what to do. I'm there to say, what do you want to do? And why is that important to you? And how do you think we can set up an ADHD friendly way to help you get there.
I'm reminded of in school, the question I was constantly asking was like, why does this matter? And unless I had that answer clear, like why that matters to me, what I was learning, it was super difficult. As soon as I had that question answered, like, why does this matter? Oh, because, so like math and teaching calculus, like there was just a whole bunch of rules until I learned why did it come about? Oh, it's because of the planetary motion. Oh, it's because of these things. And we wanted to measure the frequency of how often, these orbits were going to come around, or to be able to launch satellites, you had to know it. It's like, oh, that's why. Now I get it. Now I can learn this. And I find that interesting that like applying that to your own life also matters.
Exactly. Because for us, there's an analogy that I use that I think can illustrate this point. We know what we need to do. And I say to people, consider me, it's like when you go bowling. I say like, consider me to be those little guardrails that you pop up on the side. Because as your coach, I can't throw the ball for you. And in fact, I don't even know what pins you want to aim at. You're the one who knows where you want to, what you're aiming at, and you have to be the one to pick up the ball and throw it. But I'll be there for when you start to slide off track to just hold that boundary for you and say, hold on a second. You told me that you wanted to turn in the homework this time, not stay up till 3 a.m. having to finish it or whatever. And they're like, you're right. Because if we as coaches aren't there, Chris, they end up back in the gutter, which is why they came to me in the first place. So it's just a matter of reminding them what they said they wanted to do. And then if that isn't enough, or if they say like, yeah, I know I said that, but just this time is not, I'll be like, okay, that's fine. Like, I just want to make sure to remind you. And I wrote something down when you asked that really powerful question, which is what coaches are all about. Why does this matter? And what struck me about it was when I went through my training at the ADD Coach Academy, ADCA, which you and I were chatting about a little before this, David Gawork, who's the founder, I had the honor and privilege of having him as my coach for several months. And he called me about 6 months after I graduated. And very fortunately, I'm just so humbled to say, things were going really well for me on social media. And he said, Ryan, what are you doing out there? Because you're all right, I thought it was going to be cloudy, but now it's sunny again. What are you doing out there? Because your coaching profile on our website is getting a ton of traffic. And my answer was, David, I'm finally doing work that matters. Like my whole career, seriously, Chris, like I would go in and I would just drain my entire attention battery, checking all the boxes that neurotypical society was lining up for us in the duties as assigned, and giving it my all, going in early, staying late, working on weekends. And like, it would always get to the fact where either I would quit or I'd be fired. And I'm like, is this what life is like being a grown-up? Just being miserable? And I'm so like, this is why I was so inspired to join you on the show, because you're just at the start of your coaching journey. And what I see, conversations like this, the reason I became a coach is I wanted to provide the help that I so badly needed for the first 15 years of my career. That, I'm Googling things, I'm looking all over the internet, and I didn't know where to turn. So I felt like I was totally alone. So that's why I coach. And one of my like sign off lines that I say to people all the time in social media is, you're not alone, not anymore.
Well, and that's why I'm inspired to do these conversations, is to like, I recall a conversation maybe 4 or 5, episodes ago, I was chatting with someone and we nerded out over mind maps, and we both got chills of like, oh my gosh, like I thought I was the only one that loved this visual way of thinking, or just connecting all these dots, or like that I'm just so good and creative at like finding how all of these pieces fit together, and taking notes in this way that like helped me to do that was just like so powerful. They're like, that's exactly what my experience was. Oh my gosh. And it's like, wow, like we're not, I'm getting chills now. Like, wow, we're not alone. Like there are other people like us. To segue to one of the things I saw in your video that I want to ask you about was this SMS course that you have around helping people to find work that will work for them. As we were talking before we hit record, that's what I feel like I'm doing is I keep narrowing down closer and closer to work that I know is going to really help me and fit for my brain. And that's part of why I want to, be doing coaching and helping the few people I'm helping and help more, is to go down this path to really craft something that works well for us. So tell me a little bit more about this course that you have.
I can't make this up. I don't know if you can hear it. I know earbuds do a great job of noise canceling, but normally, today is a Tuesday, and normally the thing that happens on Tuesdays is my neighbor has this like jet powered lawnmower service that comes out. It's so loud. But right now, what's on my street is an ice cream truck. So it's like having to battle ADHD is so real because I'm ready to launch into like my emotional answer, and all I can hear is the jingle being played over this ice cream truck. So anyways, ADHD for you.
To copy that, but my dog is here in the room with me, and she is. So here's Portia, and she was just begging a little bit ago to like get let out. Hey, Portia. Yeah, say hi. She's like, I don't care. I want out. Okay.
Go ahead, let Portia out.
Yeah. There you go. There you go, guys. Okay. And now the slight, barely imperceptible, but slightly could hear ice cream truck seems like it's gone away.
Yes. So this SMS course, I'm honestly so proud of it because I firmly, genuinely believe it's going to help to change the game for all people with ADHD who are struggling with looking for a job that's right for them. Because like I said before, I struggled through almost 15 years of my corporate career where I'm like, this isn't it. So when things did start to take off for me on social media, like this was right as the pandemic was kicking in. And so a lot of times people turned to social media. And I ended up growing. I now have, it's still wild to hear these words come out of my mouth, but I have now over 500,000 followers and subscribers on social media platforms. And it all came from just starting to finally authentically be myself and realize, because like there's so much shame around ADHD, as you know, from your conversations with people. And for the first time I could be me. And once I did, it was like, wow, look at all the people that this message is resonating with. So it was such a good feeling to know that, man, all these challenges that I had, like I can now use them as the fuel for the topic of my videos. So then people would come back to me and say, hey, your stuff, I feel like I'm watching a video of me or of my husband or of my brother or whatever. And so I said like, I would love to help more people because they would have all these questions about like, my boss says this, or what kind of job should I do? And what I quickly found, as I'm sure a lot of the listeners and viewers will be able to relate to, again, back to that part earlier, I tried to be everything to everyone. And there was I want to be super vulnerable and authentic for everyone here. There was a moment where I came to the intersection of things going really well for me on social media and me having to make some serious decisions about boundaries, because my wife, who we're getting ready to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, she said to me, Ryan, I feel like your followers are more important to me than our marriage.
Whoa.
Talk about something that's going to stop you in your tracks. And I'm like, honey, no, like I'm doing this so that I can help to support, because this is the first time where I've actually been good at something. So I still get like emotional even thinking about it, because like it was totally backwards. Like the only reason I was doing it was to try to give back to her. But in that situation where if I freeze frame it and Ryan's sitting there like stuck like this, and I like look at my wife when she says that and I'm like, oh man, she's right. Like, how does this look like I'm engaged with her? So at that moment, I'm like, I have to figure out a way to scale this to help people with these common questions because there's only one of me. So that like kind of planted the seeds for me of like, how can I do that? And so fortunately, so I'm a person of faith, Chris, and I feel like it was God's plan for me to have all these things kind of line up like they did, because
Amen.
Thank you. I just so happened to be approached by a technology platform that could offer a learning program. And so of course I'm like, I've heard about all these before, and I was like, trust me, I know my audience. If they have to create another username and password, we're gonna lose them. It just doesn't work, because for ADHDers, we don't want another app. And so they said, well, Ryan, ours is different. This is text message based, no username, no app, no password. And I was like, let's go, I'm ready. So I created this course called How to Find Work That Works for Your ADHD. And good news, everyone, it's multimodal, which is fancy way to say you get to hear it, but then you can also see it in the text message. If you miss a day, it's okay. You can rewind it. And you don't even have to remember to look at it because it texts you automatically. So
this is perfect for ADHD people.
and the last part, which I also believe is perfect, it's only 10 days long. So it's basically 2 work weeks long. So it's not like 3 months long or like 3 hours at a time. Like you can literally do this in little tiny pieces along the way.
Love it.
So yeah, it takes everything that I would have taught someone one-on-one for thousands of dollars a month. And the course is only $100. So $10 a day. But wait, Chris, if the Focus Mastery people log in and follow your link now, they'll get 30% off with discount code Porter30.
I love it. All right. We'll include a link to this, and yeah, let's do Porter30 discount if you want.
Yeah. So I would have done Focus 30 or Mastery 30, but I was like, I think we already have like a Focus something. So I was like, no one else is Porter 30. But anyway, so that's why I created the course, because I wanted to help more people more often without me having to be there, and giving them really tangible takeaways. So in the program, they're going to be learning what is their motivators. So like, what is the why? I call it your work why. And it's inspired by, if people have heard of the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And by the way, I found out like 6 months ago, he has ADHD too, which isn't a shocker. But I was so impressed because I'm like, man, this guy's been like a hero of mine. And he also has ADHD. So it's really cool. But then there's also a checklist. So literally something you can print out that's a checklist to go over before you say yes, because we tend to be a tad bit impulsive sometimes. And then just, things about checking in on your strengths and reframing things in a way that'll work for ADHD brains.
I love it, man. This is great. Like, and it's not just like hand wavy, like, I just come across all this advice on Twitter that's geared towards neurotypicals, like, oh, just eat that frog, or do this, do that, and so much of that normie advice does not apply to me. And I've tried, like, 20 years of reading self-help books and going over 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, like, again and again and again, and there are some parts of it that work, and then some where I was just constantly feeling like a failure over and over again. And instead, we can just shift the way that we're approaching it and just accept that I need to have something text me frequently, and that's okay, or like I use Slack and the reminders where I can, something comes in and it's like, I can't deal with this now. For my ADHD brain, there's either now or not now. Nothing else exists, And so It's just like, okay, like, what can I do? So this course, it sounds awesome because it's like, you don't have to try harder and remember. You sign up once when you're excited, and then when you're not excited the next day and have completely forgotten about it because of time blindness or our inability to, the memory issues, associated with executive functioning disorder, like, that's just a part of our brain, and that's okay. We just have to design something or sign up for courses that we know are going to prompt us and to get us along that path.
I agree. And something that you said when we first hopped on the call, there's that idea of like, if I always say should is attached to shame. And you had mentioned about like, yeah, you don't want to should all over yourself. And I say to my clients on calls all the time, you don't have to use your should, like your shoulds are no good here, because it's not about should. The very first thing I work on with clients is something that I refer to as TUA, which is total unconditional acceptance. I see that you wear glasses. To be upset that we have ADHD is like someone who's wearing glasses who's like, dang it, I wish I didn't have to wear glasses. I'm like so mad about it. It's like, well, that's just how you are. Like, so you put on glasses and now you can see. You have to put on the same ADHD lenses and be gentle on yourself. Like, so what if you need reminders about things? Yep. So what if I have Post-it notes everywhere? Like, It's just an accommodation for myself.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's inspiring me for these conversations is like, I have these static cling whiteboards. I've got one right here, one over there, one over there. And it's to externalize anything that most people would normally keep in their brain. I just externalize it and have it in front of me, like, oh, what do I need to be working on today? I've got my list of this is today, this is tomorrow. And if I don't have it physically in front of me where I'm looking at it, I will start doing something else, or I'll get excited about this new idea and go down it, which that's a feature, not a bug. But if I really want to accomplish stuff, so what I'm holding up right now is finishersecrets.com. This is a free template. You can fold it up and have it on, just one day at a time. Why I like this is because I've got my week is one of the columns. And so I can write out at the beginning of the week, what are the things that are important and not urgent? So thinking of that Eisenhower matrix, important and urgent, not important, not urgent. What are the things that will push my business forward that I would delay or that I wouldn't do because it's not exciting or fun? And so this is a hack. This is a way of doing it. And this is a neurotypical person put this together, but it helps me so much for those, it's only got space for 2 tasks every day of like, what are the absolute, I'm not going to go to bed until I get this done. And I just put that there, and then the next day, just keep going forward. And I get 80% of them done. I don't get 100%. Don't be ashamed about it, right?
Total unconditional acceptance, TUA. Exactly.
I need to write that down.
Well, while you're writing it, I'll say the next one, which is MVPs. So this is a core concept in my coaching, and you're already doing it, Chris, but just for anyone who's watching, for some that are in the design world, they know it as minimum viable product, which it could be looked at as that. Sports fans might think most valuable player, but I use it for most valuable priorities. You talked about how Stephen Covey talks about eating the frog. Hey, everyone. Newsflash. Do you know why they call it eat the frog? Because no one wants to eat a live frog. So like, yuck. Our brains are be like, no, I'm going to do everything except this thing because I don't want to do it. So I tell my clients, pick 3 things, MVP, 1, 2, 3. And very similar to on your sheet where you have 2 things, I tell them, do them in any order you want. Because sometimes like number 1 is just like, there's something about it. I can't do it. Cool. How about number 2? Or how about number 3? Where can you start? What's a good on-ramp? And that's another concept I'm always about. It's like, find the on-ramp. Like, you can't just look up and see the highway, and that's the eat the frog. Like, you can't just go from stopped and parked to 80 miles an hour. Like, you have to find a way to just get yourself in motion. So it's all about momentum.
So good. Because with ADHD, one of the things is task initiation. That just getting started is super hard. And that's okay. Like, how can we just accept that about ourselves, but also accept that sometimes we might be super motivated? Okay, like capture that, live in that hyper focus moment and use that to its fullest. And then when you're not, again, total acceptance, total unconditional acceptance. There we go. I got it.
Got it.
Of just embracing that pattern of life. If I were to think of an analogy, it's like we're breathing right now. Sometimes we're breathing in and sometimes we're breathing out. You don't try and breathe in and hold it. You just have to accept that, if I'm talking, I'm going to have to also pause and take a breath,
It's so interesting because the way that you verbalized it, I've never thought of this before, but as you were saying it, like kind of leveraging the hyperfocus and that it's going to end. I've never thought of it that way. So I think that's a really good insight. And the analogy I thought of is riding the wave, like ride a dopamine wave. But if you think about, a lot of times if you see like a surfer, you just see them riding the, what do they call like the hole in the wave? The tunnel or something? I forget what they, I can't think of it, but you know what I'm talking about. Think of it.
Yeah.
Ride the wave, but they never show the surfer afterwards. They have to come off the wave. Sometimes they fall, sometimes they go on shore, but guess what? The wave eventually ends. And so accept that, like a surfer's not like, the wave is over. It's like, well, yeah, every wave ends, So as you were saying, I think that's a great thing. Like, all right, enjoy the wave, ride it till it's done, and then catch your next wave.
That's great. Like, let's be ADHD surfers, catch the wave.
Ooh. Yeah.
That's fun. Where would I point people to if they wanted to learn more about you and more about your coaching? I know I've got your YouTube up of Ryan Mayer Coaching, and got quite a few fans and followers on there, but where would be the best place for people to reach out to you?
I think that my website's a pretty good place to start as well. So that's ryanmayercoaching.com. But also just on all the platforms, you can look up ADHD Coach Ryan. So I've been on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of those different areas for the last few years. And that's where a lot of times people will find me. But I'm really trying to focus more on YouTube. So I'm so glad that you reached out about this, Chris, because that's like, for me, I know that it's very easy for those of us with ADHD to want to look at the short content, like the flash in the pan of like, yeah, let's look at a viral video on TikTok or Instagram. But YouTube to me is like, that's the long play. That's where it's like, this kind of content's only going to get better with age. Right now, it's July 2023. Someone might find this interview 10 years from now and be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to reach out to Ryan. I'm going to reach out to Chris. Hearing this wave analogy is amazing. Whereas if I did a video on any of the other platforms about riding the wave, it would be there for a day or two. And then most people never see it. So anyways, you can find me anywhere, but I just want everyone to know that you're not alone out here. Like, this is why Chris and I do these things, because it's to let other people know, like, there's a community. And one thing I'm working on right now, actually speaking of that, because this is like the hot thing for me this week, is I'm building a place, an ADHD community for people to join others, and it's totally free. So people can find that on my social media profile. And it's within Discord. So I just wanted to give people a place where they could go to be able to chat. Because I always joke that, like, the only bad thing about social media is that it's not very social. Because watching videos and consuming and like maybe commenting here and there, that's not a conversation. So I would much rather have things like this. So as part of that, I offer like community coaching and accountability and monthly challenges and stuff like that. So would love to have people check that out too.
Cool. I will link to that Discord in the show notes. Ryan, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much. I'd love to invite you back another time to share more and also just to get to have a public conversation between you and I, getting to share tips, tricks, things that we're learning, and hyper focus down this rabbit hole of ADHD and how to embrace the wave.
And I love that. And just as a final note, Chris, just a reminder to the viewers that you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You're just wired a little bit differently, and that's totally fine. You're amazing just the way you are. And I wish someone would have told me this. So this is like, if you can just leave with one lesson from me, it's that your professional performance doesn't dictate your worth as a human. Because for the longest time, I was so mad that I couldn't fit into the neurotypical box. And once I stepped out, it was like, oh, I didn't have to do that. So just know you're amazing just the way you are.
Awesome. Thank you.